We're live. Welcome to this session of Tech Talent Talk. We are your hosts, Oliver and Birgit, and we have this series of events to bridge the gap between recruitment and engineering. Oliver, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Oliver. I'm doing recruitment for about 10 years, and I support startups, scale-ups, and agencies with recruitment in tech, sales, and marketing.
And I'm Birgit. I work as a leadership coach and engineering leader. I advise people about creating high-performing teams through culture. And our topic today is the pros and cons of performance review. And Oliver, usually I ask a question. Do you want me to ask a question? What do you think about performance reviews?
No, I don't want to answer that question. I want to raise another one.
Okay.
Because, Birgit, you were the one who suggested this topic, and I noticed this is quite one of your favorite topics. It might be even your most favorite topic. Why?
So I have a lot of criticism about performance reviews.
Really?
Yes. And because there's so many things that can go wrong. And as engineering managers, and I'm saying engineering managers, we are definitely not equipped to perform performance reviews, because this is originally a psychology topic. And we come here as computer scientists, technical people, and we are suddenly people manager. And then we need to do these one-on-ones and these half-yearly performance reviews. And yeah, we need to evaluate another person's behavior. And so this is quite fun, I must say.
That's actually the first thing that I want to comment on, because by training, I'm actually a historian of technology and science. And the topic of performance review can be seen as a big part in the development of technology and also economy in the last 130 years. And I know you wanted to talk about the historical background, right?
Yeah. Let me bring this up. This will take up some minutes. It's very good to know about the historical background. We might think this is an American invention, first of all, but it's not. It's originally invented in Australia. It's invented by a firm that's called W.D. Scott. And there's also a person named like this who created this firm. And the person originally invented it in order to impact the growth of a person, right? And so it was invented in like even before World War I. So that was quite interesting. Yeah. So before World War I, and it was not widely used before that. It was spread in the 1950s, and this in US America. And the people created like something more formal, which was not formal before. So basically you had an informal conversation with your manager in order to figure out like where can there be some improvement. And the interesting thing is that back then, with the informal and the formal self-appraisal, it was like the focus was on the personality, like the inherited personality. So something that back then was like there's a discussion in psychology whether you can like whether your DNA changes your personality or not, or like whether your DNA can like if you can inherit a personality or not. And by the way, there can in some sort of like some amount you can inherit some behavior from your ancestors, from your parents. So, and still you are able to change it as well. So, but this behavior was monitored. So it was not about like what work you have done and like how well you did it. It was about your behavior.
What kind of behavior are we talking about?
I'm not sure about that, because like all of the historical context was like superficial, like what you get when you research it. So when you want to really dive deep into this, I guess you need to open some historical books about the self-appraisal and the performance review back then.
Do you know what W.D. Scott was actually doing as a company? What kind of items they were producing?
So this firm was actually a consultancy firm that was specialized in improving business processes. So I assume they did something like that.
Interesting, because when you said this idea of measuring something, measuring the performance of someone was invented before the First World War, I was actually not surprised, because that was a big thing in those days.
Yeah.
I just remember Frederick Winston Taylor and his scientific management, who tried to find the most ideal way to produce a certain item by slicing it into small parts, and to give each part or each task to one person that is really specialized in it, and trying to measure with a clock, for example, or by trying to find out how many steps this person has to walk to perform a task, and to find the most ideal way for this task to be performed by a person. And if you have this as your main idea, measuring someone's performance is, at least on paper, at least in theory, rather simple, because you would measure how many, let's say, screws this person has produced over a day, over a quarter. And then you
Yeah.
say, oh, this is pretty good. It's 5% above the standard. Well
Yeah.
done.
The thing is, a lot of research has been done, also in different contexts. For example, how performant people are when they got laid off, and they were tracked by how fast they are walking while being unemployed. But it's not in the context of performance review. So basically, you need the context in order to like track the history of the performance reviews, and this is where we are. Later in the 1960s, there was a greater focus on the self-appraisal. So basically, not your manager is like giving you feedback on how you appear and how you're being perceived. You can also give your content as well. So this was in the 1960s. So you have like the view of your manager and the view of yourself. And that was actually also a big step, especially when you see like today's research actually says two things: that your self-perception is more accurate, and then in a different context also, people often praise themselves higher than they actually are. And still, this is the more accurate one. This I find quite interesting. Later in the 1970s, a lot of flaws have been found, because see that a lot of cases have been taken to court. And look, we still have that today. Yeah, even in Germany, we still have that today. So why did the cases, why are they being brought to a court? This is because, and we have that today as well, because they are too opinionated, too subjective. Like, so there's like, it hasn't been done with like data that people can rely on. Yeah, so it was just purely because someone said so about another person. Yeah. And this is where the start of psychometric systems have been used, and also other rating scales. And then we have the early 1980s to the early 2000s, where we have like some more holistic measurements, such as the 360-degree feedback, and also where people are focusing more on employee motivation and engagement, and things like that, and more metrics, for example, such as self-awareness, communication, teamwork, conflict reductions, and the ability to handle emotions. Do you see anything that has something with tech?
What I see is that how performance reviews actually came to life. That was back in the days when lots of employees produced physical items, where the physical output of someone's work can be seen and measured. 100 screws, very good. 50 screws, not good. And by the change of the economy, the shift from physical production to the production of non-physical items like software, after all, or simply knowledge in a certain way, it's very hard to measure the output of someone. How do you want to measure the output of a software engineer? By the amount of code lines someone has written? I mean, that doesn't need to be necessarily good. If someone writes a lot of code, it can also be spaghetti code. So I think this knowledge economy that we have requires much more soft skills than someone who produces screws, after all. So this is why they are trying to measure it, but measuring it and being objective about it can be a quite difficult thing.
It's a quite difficult thing.
You have specialists who learn and specialize in measuring that. And we are just talking about measuring. What is very often forgotten, and this is why cases like this end up in court, is the documentation.
Yeah, it's the documentation. Yeah. I would like to add something before is the documentation. So when we measure something that is technical, this is usually better done on the team level, not on the individual level.
What does it mean?
For example, like think about like when you are the most top technical person, you're often the CTO. And then you need to think about, okay, I am going into the board meeting and there are the CEO and the CPO bringing their performance data. What can I bring as a CTO? And this is often how like performant the people are, because people ask the CTO, when is the project done? And then it's also how, like, what the quality of the product is. Yeah, so these are the two things that often CTO can bring in, mostly some more. But these are the main metrics. And coming back to how, like answering the question of when is it done, you could, like the most simple measurement would be when you have items in your Jira board and you measure in some sort of interval, such as a sprint of Scrum, for example, you can measure like this team has done so many items the last 2 weeks.
So what you have to say is when the CTO goes to a meeting with other executives, what he could tell in order to describe the performance of his engineering team is, we did well because in 2 sprints we managed to close 500 tickets, for example.
Like the responsibility of the CTO is to upkeep the performance of the team. Yeah, so it's not necessarily to like increase the performance of something that is already at maximum. Yeah. This needs to be done differently. So we have this, let's say we have this fixed set of team and they're already working at their most maximum. Yeah, so they are at their best performance, so to speak. And the responsibility of this one, of the CTO, is to monitor if it keeps this way. And if there's any slight decrease, this is a hint of something being wrong. And there are a lot of a lot of things that may be happening that can lead to this decrease of the performance.
Decrease in like how? In the amount of tickets or story items that have been finished?
Yeah,
This is so easy to be manipulated.
I know. I know. I know. I know. And the thing is, it's very difficult to measure this, especially when, as a team member, you know how to manipulate it and you are going to manipulate it, especially when a manager asks you, hey, please estimate this thing for me. And then later the manager comes in, I'm keeping you uphold for you to be done by this estimation that you have done. And this, of course, is like an exercise that you shouldn't do because it's not necessary. It's like trying to predict the gold prices for the next day. Yeah, so this is what value it has. We're talking about past data, Oliver. So stuff that already has been done. So let's say we have one team, and keep in mind, people, we are usually measuring a single team. We are not measuring a team against another team because they have different challenges. They have a different setup. They have different skills and whatnot. So they're super different. You can only measure a team by itself with the same setup. So if the team is changing, even a vacation within the team is a change of setup. So it's super difficult to measure it, which is why as the most top person, like the CTO, this is an indicator. Yeah, so you're just going to ask questions. You're not going to take actions right now. You just basically want to know, is there something that we need to do? Is there something that we need to change? Is there like some time that we need to implement into our project plan so that we can increase whatever quality, for example? Yeah, maybe the team didn't have much time to implement something in high quality in a maintainable way, so that the CTO needs to request time for upholding for quality, for example. We're going into a different direction. So so this is basically what the CTO's responsibility in terms of performance review is, like keeping the performance of the entire staff at the maximum. Yeah, but also when we're talking about self-development, which we are doing today in the modern performance review, also being able to bring in knowledge to the existing stuff. Yeah, so because we have in the economical changes, we also have technology changes. We are dealing with a lot of technology that is new, that's changing. So we need to make sure that the people constantly learn something new and bring the knowledge into the company. Yeah.
So the fundamental basis that is being used by an engineering manager and a CTO to measure the performance of a team and an individual is, let's face the facts, rather vague.
It's absolutely vague. And this is why this is also a criticism point for me. Of course, like I totally understand a CTO when they don't have any data points, like what can they bring in? And the other thing is, how can a manager like be sure that all of the, like an engineering manager, team lead, that their team is performing, because in the end it's like their local responsibility.
But I would say this is also a matter of how you define the role of an engineering manager and a CTO. If you want this person to present the amount of story items finished to board members, Okay, fine.
Yeah.
But that's also something an Excel sheet could do, or a simple Jira dashboard could do
And the team can do it itself.
itself, and maybe even better.
Even better.
Um,
And this is
if
where we
there's
come to my other most favorite topic. This is the self-organized team. And also where I think that the team might be able, with proper coaching and training, they might be able to do a performance review themselves by, like, we're already coming to the alternatives here, by in a self-organized way. Yeah, so we have so what we have with the performance review, this is like a yearly or half yearly pattern that happens in order to like track the performance, give feedback, but also provide goals for self-developments and see if they have been met. And then we also have these things such as salary negotiations and potential promotions, right? And there are companies that don't have managers. They have self-organized teams, but still they need to have salary negotiations and potential promotions, right? And so these teams have been trained to give feedback towards each other directly. And this is where the next criticism comes from me. We are usually utilizing, like, let's say I'm a team member of a team and we have this performance review with the manager. I can go to the manager and say like, hey, this mid-level developer is not being able to code properly. He behaves like rather a junior. Yeah.
highly subjective.
It's very effective saying that, because and this is one of the mistakes that a manager is doing, is being used as a chess figure for team dynamics.
This is manipulation.
This is manipulation. And of course, I believe that the manager will find something, especially when a lot of team members have the same opinion, because they have done, like, as I said, team dynamics. They have like agreed and saw something that might go into this direction, but maybe they don't understand this person. And by the way, I have seen this happening with mid-level engineers, senior engineers, staff engineers, and tech leads.
I do get that, but if you, as the supervisor, whatever your role is, engineering manager, CTO, and whatnot, if you fall for these manipulations, then you're also not doing your job properly.
Absolutely.
I know that it's very natural to be affected by this kind of manipulation. This is all agreed, but it cannot be the only source of your decision making.
Yes.
To my understanding, if you want to measure someone's performance, you need to define the expectations in the first place. And this is where I see most of the troubles happening in recruitment. So bringing the people on board, but also keeping them and working with them on the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And this is why I think an engineering manager needs to have this technical background in order to evaluate that a person really can bring the performance on this level, especially when an engineering manager identifies I am being used as a chess figure for team dynamics. And many managers play that game still, even though they figure out, oh, I have been used as a chess figure. They still go for this game of being manipulated. And then you have this triangle communication. So on the one end, you have the team members complaining about one member, and they come to you with this feedback and complaint, and then you go to this team member and you deliver this feedback to them.
So why do you think they are falling for it, and they are actively falling for it?
Because I think this is a lack of skills, not even of soft skills. So what we know as engineers is how to perform these one-on-ones. But most engineering managers have a lack of skills in facilitation. And this is what actually agile coaches have. So the agile coaches are the ones who have the ability to bring the team together. And even if it's a difficult topic, they manage, if they are good, to make the team deliver the feedback directly.
This makes me question how someone gets promoted from being an engineer to being an engineering manager.
Yeah.
There, it sounds like there is a lack of expectation management, role definition, and also training and guidance for this person to grow from pure engineering. I mean, it's never pure engineering, but from an engineering focused role to a role that also has the manager in its title. It makes me also wondering what a manager is, how we define it, and what we expect from it.
How would you
And
define?
from what I see, it's never very well defined. Like the term manager is used so often in so many different contexts where it's absolutely wrong based on its actual meaning. A facility manager, for example, managing in its pure meaning, in its origin, doesn't mean to manage a physical thing, an item. It comes from the French manege, which is like a school for horses and its riders. So the manager is the one who trains the horse and the person riding the horse. So it has a lot of training, a lot of teaching, a lot of coaching, but it's not managing items.
Yeah.
It is bringing a person, very often it's a person, not so much a horse nowadays, to bring a person from A to B, to help a person grow, and not to manage only numbers of code lines and finished story items or persons recruited or interviews performed or hallways cleaned and sockets maintained, this definition of manager is too simple. It is thinking of the checkbox, but management, this is about growth. And what I see in many companies, when they want to hire managers who are responsible over material things and people, they lack the growth part. They lack the people management part.
Yeah.
I believe, especially if you come from engineering, learning how to manage people, so how to help them to grow, is even more important, and it's a skill that really needs to be acquired. But when I see how promotion is being done in many cases, not just in the tech industry with engineers, also in other departments, many people are easily promoted from individual contributor levels, like let's say senior engineer, to a team lead position, and then to becoming an engineering manager without being equipped with the necessary skills. And to be very frank here, I'm not saying that these people are dumb. This is not the case.
No.
I'm saying that the company who employs such people and HR and also their managers, they missed the chance to prepare these people to do their jobs.
Absolutely. We have only a fraction of managers, and I'm not only talking about engineering managers, who are being prepared for their leadership role. So they don't receive any training. Like many people receive their first leadership training by their 30s. Yeah. And so you see, we already have a lot of leaders in the 20s. And no, wait a minute. Let me get the number straight. Many managers actually are being promoted in their 30s, but they receive the training later in the 40s. So this is the research that I have done. And in engineering, this is even stronger, because we go into, like, when we look for a profession before we go for university, we go for something that we like, and this might be something technical. And then often when I observe the students, then they have the observation, okay, maybe I don't need to deal with people because I can deal with something technical. And then later on, they have a really big surprise that they need to work in teams, that they are being evaluated by their behavior, and so on and so forth. And then when they manage to be a good person, like, let's say, a good person, and the people like them, and they do good technical stuff, then they are being promoted for that without the training of handling other people.
And let's also face the facts. For decades, if you think of making a career, it always implied having power over people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you haven't had any power over people, you were seen as not having made a career, which is also wrong, because you can be also an expert.
Yeah. So this has a great impact of the performance review, and this is why a lot of managers do a couple of mistakes. One I have mentioned already. For example, like, they do not track the achievements and the learnings of their peers. And I may have mentioned it already, but if you don't like track the achievements and learnings from your peers and your regular one-on-ones, you will have no data at all in order to be able to decide whether a person will be eligible for promotion or not, and eligible for salary increase or not. Yeah, so you simply decide on your gut, which is why I have seen stories about other engineering managers complaining about the engineering manager before promoting people who shouldn't have been promoted. And now,
right?
Come on.
This guy who got the promotions, he was the one bringing the muffins.
I suppose I didn't ask that when I heard the story. If the person who was promoted also asked for the promotion, but this is also another story. Like, yes, a lot of times we have this one-on-one and the performance reviews for solely promotion and salary increases, but let's move that first, like, a little bit aside, for like the story of like how this engineering manager then needs to deal with the person who cannot be demoted back because of, maybe law or something. Also because of like law on, you cannot simply decrease someone's like salary because you have a new contract here. And so this person is on this level, like paid on this level, but doesn't perform on this level. Yeah. So now the new engineering manager needs to train this person in order to bring the level up to how the person is being paid. Yeah, so this is something that you don't want as an engineering manager. Yeah, you want to avoid that. You want to support your team members to grow. And so, yeah, you want to do that before you are paying the people on this level. Yeah. And I believe that people also want to have that support from you.
When you said engineering manager has to bring up the people to the level of what they're getting paid for, it requires that you have defined this level very well.
Oh yeah. I can also tell you some stories where like things happened and things didn't happen that needed to be happen. For example, when you need to have a role definition, right? And when do we have a role definition? This is before we actually have the role. But you often see companies, for example, that don't have that role definition. So what can you measure your performance on. Yeah. So this is also, even if you track the data, it's still a gut feeling. So you need to have a basis of definition of what the role is supposed to be. And let's say you have like these 3 levels, junior, mid-level, and senior. Yeah, this is what most companies start with. And you want to have a definition of what these level of engineering mean. Yeah. For example, with junior, I like to say still that the junior is allowed to ask a lot of questions and they should learn and grow. Yeah. And with the mid-level, this amount of asking question might decrease, but I personally still encourage a lot of collaboration and asking questions. Because again, we have new technologies coming in, which means you need to reframe it in like, did the person perhaps learn something new? Yeah, especially later on the senior level, you are also talking about what kind of impact did the person create. And when you have these kind of definitions, and you go into the team as an engineering manager, you want to check what is their current status, what's their current level. Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of a framework on how you can do a proper performance review based on data, and where the people trust you, learn to trust because it's based on data. So the first thing is that you need to have this role definition. If you don't have that, please put your engineering management and HR community together and create that. Yeah, you definitely need to have that, because this is the basis of how you can grow your team members. And then when you have that, you need to check on the current status. So each of the points that you have created on the role definition from your team members, you want to have at least one example. If they cannot deliver it, this is a point of improvement. Yeah. And then later on, when you have, we're talking about the performance review, and attached to that are the one-on-ones. You want to track on a regular basis the achievements and the learnings of someone. Yeah.
Before the one-on-one actually happens.
Can you come again?
So you need to track that.
Yeah.
In order to perform the one-on-one, because otherwise you are talking about subjective impressions and not about data points.
So what I usually do when I come into a team, I check the role definition if it exists. And then when I have all the points under this level of role definition, inside so I utilize the one-on-one in order to get the information with the people, right? So it's still information that belongs to a certain person. So I would like to create a certain privacy here. So I utilize the one-on-one in order to gain the knowledge and the transparency. It's not only for me a transparency, it's also for the person a transparency on where the person stands. And this makes the difference. If the person doesn't know where they stand, later on in the performance review, it will be surprised what feedback they will get.
What I wanted to point out is the necessity of tracking before meeting.
Yeah, this is definitely true. Some managers have a weekly one-on-one, and then I would say let's do this inside the meeting as a conversation. We track what we have learned here. But as soon as you have like a bi-weekly one-on-one or some cycle that takes longer, it is especially important that the team member is tracking their own achievements and learnings on their own. Because when they don't do it, it will be forgotten. And
it will be forgotten by the managers and by them.
And by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I had a lot of work with an example, like a person, this is an example, to do. This person wanted to have a promotion. Yeah, so we worked on that. We worked on that whether we can achieve it or not. But the person had trouble to remember examples of like every point inside this role definition. And the rule of a promotion in this company said, you need to meet every of the points in that list plus a couple of those from the next level. Yeah. And there were a lot of points missing. So I couldn't see how I can actually bring her up for promotion. So for her, it was also quite transparent to see that there were examples missing. And so we had a couple of rounds in weekly one-on-ones. And then finally we remembered enough, like she remembered enough, so that finally I could bring her up for performance promotion negotiations. And in the end, she got the promotion. But it was hard work, so it's work.
So let's summarize. One of the most important thing in order for a one-on-one and a performance review to be successful for both parties is to come prepared, and that means having an overview about the achievements and learnings. It means for the individual contributor to have made this overview, and for the manager as well, because there might be differences, right? There might be things that the employee forgot, or that the manager has forgotten.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that prepared, if you come unprepared to such a meeting, no matter if you are the employee or the manager, you don't really set up things for success, right?
Exactly.
You are doomed to fail.
Exactly.
And I can't stress this enough, because me as a recruiter, I spend half of my day talking to people who come out of a performance review and are disappointed because they expected certain things to happen. And maybe it was a promotion, maybe it was the chance to work on a certain project, maybe it was a chance to learn something special, or maybe it was a salary increase. And very often when I ask, like, what did you do in order to make this meeting a success for both the manager and for you, they don't really have anything to say.
Yeah. Because, like, they also don't come trained of like how should a one-on-one look like to like create self-growth, and in the end also potential for promotion and salary.
That means the manager should actually tell the employees what to expect from such a one-on-one and from a performance review, but also the employees should raise their voice and talk about their desires and needs, because this is not a one-way street, right?
It's not
It's not just the manager who provides the review about the performance of the individual. The individual can also provide a feedback on the manager's performance.
Yeah. This is why, like, so the framework that I'm using has 4 questions. Yeah. So two of the questions are for the self-growth, and the other ones are for like what's happening currently and giving and receiving feedback. Yeah. So the framework that I'm using, again, is based on the role definition, and you need to have the document, an extra document of like where the person currently stands. And so the questions that I have for the self-development part is, what are your achievements? And then the other one is, what are your learnings? And I have this framed like this, and not what are your like what is the stuff that leads you to not having success. Yeah. So I framed it as, what is your learning, to make it more positive and to motivate the people to like talk about their learnings, why they had no success and stuff. And the other things are again is about what is happening currently. For example, what are some questions that you have, and what is some information that you would like to share. And this is for the manager as well as for the team member. So both will bring up questions and information that they can share. And these are the 2 questions that where you can basically talk about some misunderstandings, some goal alignment, and things like that. And so you have these 2 parts inside the one-on-one, the self growth tracking, and also the realignment and discussion part as well inside 101. Yeah. And then when we come back to the what mistakes managers do, another thing that I have witnessed is that people don't define development goals with their peers. So what is it that a peer would needs to grow on? So this is something that you do in coaching. This is something that you do in therapy, yes, but inside a performance review, you would need to be able to figure out where should the self-improvement go.
Why do you think this is not being done?
Again, I believe this is because of the training that is not being done with engineering managers. So I put a lot of responsibility on the engineering management side. At the same time, at the organization who is not providing the training. Yeah. And again, this is something that needs to be done for training. This is again something that goes actually into the coaching section, and coaching comes from psychology, and so we need to help engineers to do the psychology part in here, which also means like defining a goal to improve on.
I believe from what I have seen, and I hired a lot of engineering managers. Lots of companies underestimate the effort that has to be done in order to manage people. The tech side, don't get me wrong, can be managed rather easily. But the people part, this is what is very often underestimated, and this is what separates the engineering manager from the engineering, from the engineer.
Yeah.
And if you don't equip the engineering managers with the right training and coaching and whatnot, this is a problem. But if you don't give them the resource of time, for example, to prepare such a performance review, to prepare the one-on-ones, to define development goals, if you send them unprepared and unequipped in such a meeting because you don't give them the resources to act accordingly, then they're doomed to fail. Not just the engineering managers, but also the individuals.
Yeah.
And I think this is also due to a lack of misunderstanding
Exactly.
how complex people management actually is, but also a lack of misunderstanding what resources are needed.
Yeah, exactly. And there's absolutely no training that gives you the technical as well as the psychological part at the same time. So there's like no study for this that you can do in order to become like engineering manager straight ahead. You will be promoted from the technical point of view most of the time. We have hiring managers that come from different areas that have no technical background, and that's quite interesting as well. But those are becoming rare again because we need the engineering manager be more technical and do more project management stuff. And so we have these two sides. So we have people with people skills on the engineering side, and then we have engineers with the technical side, but no people skills. And these are the majority of the engineering managers.
David, what do you think about recent developments? Because I'm under the impression when I look at job ads these days, no matter if it's an individual a contributor or a kind of people manager, the list of hard skills they have to bring is getting longer and longer and longer.
Yeah.
But the people management skills, they don't grow in the same pace.
I wouldn't like to, for both sides, I wouldn't like them to grow. I would like them to be rephrased and to still have an amount of air to self-develop, right? So I would like this is my take on this. Like when they grow and grow, then I think there still needs to be like some opportunity to learn what's on the list. Yeah.
Sorry, what I've said was not very well formulated. I was trying to say that I'm under the impression that in times of uncertainty and crisis, like the times we are currently living in, and especially in the tech industry, employing companies seem to focus much more on the hard skills in order to, they might be thinking they need to be even better in Java, they need to be even faster in Python in order to bring the product live faster,
Yeah.
to generate revenue whatsoever. And they tend to expect a lot and even more from those individual contributors.
Yeah.
And I think how to manage them, the people management side, the learning and the growing part, it seems to me the emphasis has shifted.
It has shifted. You can see that clearly. You have, like, when you look at the engineering management position or engineering leadership position in general, that the people managers, they have been called people managers back then, they need to be more hands-on, so quote, hands-on, please code again, or they need to have strong skills in cloud infrastructure and system engineering in order to have like the good overview. And then again, like it's becoming more of a project management like position, less of a people. You still need to do the people management stuff, but the requirement goes more towards the hard skills in terms of like hands-on system engineering, architecture, and cloud infrastructure. This is also due to the rise of AI that eats a lot of cloud computing. You know.
Whenever I see a focus on someone who is required to be hands-on, I'm really wondering if they expect this person to code like 20-25 hours a week, or if they expect that this person still understands what's going on.
Both, and we can quickly go into the topic of like how overwhelmed you are as an engineering manager, because you need to do everything at the same time. You need to code, you need to system engineer, you need to project management.
You might have to.
These are already three full-time positions, and then you also need to do the people management, which is also a full-time position, especially when you have 30 people or more in your team.
And meetings.
And also meetings, yes.
Meetings with other management
stakeholders.
Members. What a pain.
Yeah. So as an engineering manager, you quickly come over the 40 hours a week.
That doesn't make sense to me. It's the recipe for burnout, seriously.
Yes, that's true.
Especially if expectations are not very well formulated. The expectations the company has on you as the engineering manager, but also vice versa. Engineering manager to the company, team members to the manager.
Yeah.
That sounds like hell.
Yeah.
And whenever I interview people, no matter if they are individual contributors or managers, this is the drama what I'm hearing. Why do people leave jobs? It's not so much just the salary. Yes, of course, it is a topic, especially in times of uncertainty and inflation. It is, but very often it is about expectations, desires not being addressed and met. Addressed and met, those are two different things. And missing soft skills or attention, affection. I would even call it affection from the management part, because it's so much underestimated that even software engineers are human beings after all,
Yeah.
with very human desires, and it is to be seen, to be heard, to be taken seriously, and also to be challenged, to be developed in measures that are realistic.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
this comes with documentation from both parties.
Yeah.
And this is what is very often done wrong from my perspective.
Exactly. Yeah, we see like that the basis of a good performance review is again the role description, and this is where we have the bridge between recruitment and engineering, because the role description starts when you are hiring people. So let's say you're a really young startup, and most startups actually don't have description at all. Even then, you should have a role description in order to like know what is it that you're hiring, and so that you don't, when you hire someone, this person is not confused about the discrepancies between what's inside the job ad versus what the actual job is, right?
So whenever I interview people, I face this problem of they thought they were getting hired to do A because this is what is said in the job description. In the interview, it turned out it is not A; it is rather B. When they arrive, they are asked to do C because B is not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Because they arrive 2 months after they have signed the contract. And then later in the performance review, they learn they should have done C, but also D, and ideally, because priorities have shifted, also sprinkles of E.
Yeah.
A lot of frustration along the way. And this is even more critical if the expectations towards the role are changing even within the recruitment process. And then you have this issues of missing alignment among the interviewers, the hiring managers who are interviewing for A, but not so much for B, and maybe they have a totally different agenda. This is, by the way, also how you ruin your employer brand.
Yeah.
I've talked to many interviewees who said, "Oh, you're working for this company? No, I haven't interviewed 2 years ago. This was such a shitty experience. I will never work for this company again." Because people are just from the natural behavior so likely to talk 10 times more often about a bad experience and to remember bad experiences more often, that it's easy to ruin your employer brand, but also the motivation of your existing staff members. And this is, I think, one of the most critical points here. If you suck in your performance reviews as a company, you're demotivating your employees, which means the results of your company in terms of how fast are you able to ship a certain feature, how well is it made, things like that. This chance decreases if your staff is also demotivated by shitty performance reviews.
Yeah. Yeah. With like no knowledge about what the outcome of the performance review could be, right? So no estimations can be done.
It is a chance actually to motivate your people if done right.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
it doesn't mean sugarcoat them.
No,
It means helping them to become from good to better.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you hire them because they're great, right? And so you want them to stay great and even become better. Oliver, we're at the end. I would like to ask you a different question. Usually we ask people like, what really great interview experience did you have? Since we have performance reviews, I would like Oliver, like, have you ever experienced a good performance review?
I was thinking about that before when we started the record of this show. And honestly, no, I haven't. Because when I experienced performance reviews from the employee perspective, I saw that very often, let's say it took 30 minutes, The first 5 minutes were used to talk about things in the past. Oh, you did this right. Oh, this was a shit show. You should have done things differently. La la la. And then the other 25 minutes, it was being used to talk about current projects.
Mhm.
So how is the progress in project A?
Yeah, well, look at the Jira board.
And very often, I've heard this from my girlfriend. Actually, it's
Yeah,
also used to gossip about other employees.
that's not good.
If you do this as the manager, to start gossiping and to invite your subordinates to join you in gossiping, wow, this is not done right. How about you, Birgit? Since performance reviews is your most favorite topic.
I must say, like, I did have an experience that was not a performance review, and this was again like done by a self-organized team. We had a head of engineering manager, but he didn't do like these performance reviews. We did have agile coaches who were responsible for the good environment inside the engineering team. And so we had some conflicts with some people who usually create, like, because of their narcissistic behavior, naturally created conflicts. And so one of them did try to create constant conflict with me. And so we had an outspeak inside a meeting that was quite fruitful. And so we had like a little bit of a framework of saying, like, we gave direct feedback. So even from like some narcissistic person, I gained feedback that was valuable to me. And this was super interesting, and I liked it very much. First of all, there was no triangle communication. So I was able to like talk about the feedback and how I perceived the feedback and how I perceived the situation. And also the narcissistic person had the ability to get feedback from me. And the feedback was in form of how we can improve upon something or how we can improve, and how we can shine even more. So these are maybe similar questions, but they are framed differently. And when you frame something differently, you have different thoughts about something. So I have, like, when I say I improve upon something, I address a certain situation where I want the person to improve on. And the other one was I have some more gift to give. Yeah.
Gift to give.
Gift to give. Yeah. I have more gifts. So feedback is being approached as a gift. And this was really great. And so even if we don't do this as a self-organized way, I would like to give our audience these two things, like these two questions, to bring into the performance review, especially when you have the 360-degree feedback, so that the feedback will become a gift for self-growth for the people. And with that being said, we meet each other in 2 weeks again with a different topic. And then we say goodbye, Oliver.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.